I've had quite a lot of viewers email me wondering if I'm in good health and what's happening with me. And I'm sorry, but I bought a new boat, and it's taken up quite a lot of my time lately to get it up together. I bought this the boat in Newcastle. I've been looking for ages on the internet for another trailer sailor to augment Stratos, because the kids are growing up. You know, my daughter's 18 and my son's 15, and the boat was getting it just can't do what I want it to do, because you know, the kids are growing up and it's not got the space for us to go on holiday. So I've been looking around for something, and this Noelex came up in Newcastle at 35k, and it's you know, it caught my eye, so off we went down to Newcastle to have a look at it. And basically I went down there, and it kind of the hull's in good nick. It's got a bit of good sails, reasonable sails with it, and it had a brilliant trailer. It's as good as brand new, and they had a good engine, so it had good sails, good hull, not, you know, in reasonable condition, a good engine, and a good trailer, and what, you know, basically that's all I need out of a trailer sailor is those things, and I can fix the rest up a bit, you know, titivated or whatever else. And when I pulled it out the water, it I thought, right, yeah, this is all right. Pull it out the water, get a survey done on it, you know, insurance survey. And when I pulled it out, the keel had a longitudinal crack. So anyway, I didn't knock the guy down too much, and ended up getting him to drive it all the way back from Newcastle to Brisbane, to a boatyard where I could lift the keel out and have a good look at it, and maybe repair it or make a new one. I hadn't made my mind up at that time. So anyway, to cut a long story short, the boat came back up here to Brisbane. I titivated it up for a month or so, and then I bit the bullet and pulled the keel out, and to have a look and see if I could repair it. Well, when I pulled it out, had a big good look at it, and it's a crack down the longitudinally down the keel to just a couple of an inch below the hull. Anyway, it's a twisting crack, and that's what caused it, from the twisting. And anyway, I thought, well, what can I do here? And I looked, ummed and ahed if I could repair it, the crack. And I looked at what it was made of, cut a hole out, and it's about 2 layers of unidirectional, and say 3 layers of chop strand mat. And the chop strand mat had broke, and the unidirectional, was in a, hadn't broken the unidirectional direction. So anyway, I thought, oh, what am I going to do? So anyway, in the end, I thought, no, I can't repair it. I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to bite the bullet. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make a new one. So in the end, I pulled it out. I took all the anti-fouling off, sprayed it up, made it a perfect mold again, and then flop molded it there. So I got a template to make the new one. And then I went to Jeff Reichel's. He makes the Rosses, and I went to his workshop and asked him if he'd give me a hand to build a new one. So he was very good, and he helped me, and his knowledge was great on helping me, make a new keel. And so between Jeff Reichel and I, we produced a new keel for the boat, which was made of vinyl ester, triaxle, and unidirectional carbon fibre. And I believe it's it's a better keel, stronger than the one that definitely than the one that was in there. When I pulled the keel apart, you could see that there was stress cracking in the not the vertical but the horizontal plane, and very around just by where the hull is, or just about a couple of inch below the hull, there was definitely a bit of stress cracking there, and so I thought, oh, you know, that, you know, it's been raced in the past, and quite heavily at one stage when it was brand new, and it's been repaired a couple of times in the longitudinal plane, and you know, when I pulled it apart, I could see that it repaired a couple of times. Not in the last, you know, 7 or 8 years or 10 years, but before that, I reckon it was from nearly when it was new. It became a problem, and then obviously so they sold it on to somebody else, and they didn't sail it so competitively, and it lasted them for, you know, last 10 years or so, and they were oblivious to the problems of the keel. Anyway, when I pulled it out, the ram was rusty. It worked all right, nothing wrong with it, and but it's a stainless steel spear in a normal, just a hydraulic steel ram, and it's covered in an epoxy tar, you know, pretty thin, and the epoxy tar had got scratched on the way down the board somewhere when they're putting it in, I expect, and it had completely rusted the bottom, and was just basically down to the seal, and so anyway, I had to condemn the bloody ram and build a new one. So I thought, well, I'm not going through this again. I'm going to have this boat for the next 10 years. It's going to last me. So I'm going to invest, and I got a person to build me a stainless steel 316 ram, completely stainless steel 316 ram, and it's slightly bigger than the ram I had. It only just fitted in the case, and anyway, it's all good and works perfectly. So I've got a new keel and a new ram in a 1984 Noelex, which has got a very good engine in it, which has only done 300 hours, which is a 3YM Yanmar 20, and with a sail drive, and with a auto stream propeller. So it's a good bit of kit, the engine is. So all in all, in the end, I'll have spent about 55,000, I reckon, to get the boat up to standard of Stratos, where I can, you know, everything works and everything's reliable. The great things about this boat is it's got plenty of, you know, it's got headroom throughout, got an oven and got a toilet, so you've got privacy. So the whole thing is, I can invite people on board now. On Stratos you couldn't invite people because they couldn't go to the toilet, basically, without being in front of you. With this boat, it's got its own private toilet, so that's the major draw. So I can, not that I take many people out, but I'm trying to now take a few people for a sail, and my daughter's friends as well. They're coming out with me, and so my daughter comes along and her friends, and we have a great time going over to the sandhills at Morton Island. You know, it's a different kettle of fish to Stratos. You know, Stratos was built in Western Australia and directly designed for about 20 knots of breeze, and you know, it sails really well in 20 knots. You know, you don't have to, you know, just with a jib and maybe one reef in the main. You know, it will handle really well. This boat is absolutely fantastic in 8 knots of breeze. You know, 8 to 10 knots of breeze, this thing flies relative to the, you know, the wind strength. And when you get up to 20 knots, this boat's fully reefed, and on your own, when you haven't got 6 people on the side, it's reasonably tender. You know, so 20 knots is about as much as you can do with 2 reefs in the main. Anchoring. When I anchor this boat, straddle stays smack into the wind, doesn't move around too much at all. This one does tack on the anchor line, but you know, I've been out there and anchored in 25, 30 knots of breeze, and it doesn't pull the anchor out, but it does tack round a bit on the anchor. So I think it'll be all right out the reef. I love it to stay a bit, you know, more into the wind, you know, straight panting into the wind and tacking on the anchor. But I'll see when I take it cruising how good it is. Welcome aboard the interior of the Noelex. This is the galley, which is quite nice, and under there's where you keep all the pots and pans. On the port side, it's got a switchboard and a radio, and it's got quite a nice dinette arrangement. In the middle of the boat, it's got the centre board, which goes up and down hydraulically, and you just press one of the buttons just there on the side. You're walking up the front, you've got a nice V berth. On the port side, behind the dinette, it's got a nice private toilet. In behind the stairs, it's got a nice little diesel engine. We're on the way to the sandhills and sailed over from Brisbane, and you may be able to see the cranes in the background here of the container docks. Yeah, we're heading to anchor at the sandhills, pushing along in with the 20 horse Yanmar here, doing 3,200 revs, and we're doing about 4.7 knots into about 20 knots of breeze.